Hello, everyone, and welcome to Toku Portal Podcast. I am Ryan. With me is.
Zero. And that's all, folks.
Uh, so, we open up right where we left off last week with Sogo in space. He destroys the meteor, and oh, that was like a baby meteor because there's an even bigger one behind it. Uh,
Yeah.
and
That
was
was like a weird revelation from last week. Where it's like, how do you even miss that? But I'm like, for dramatic effect, I guess I'll let it slide.
tunnel vision.
I guess. I mean, especially when you're trying to rider kick the thing in reverse. Like, I know it's called like they named the damn rider kick after the fact that like he's rider kicking from the rocket nozzle end. But it's like that's still the stupidest fucking decision. Like even Forza goes with the pointy end first, right?
He doesn't
Like that's
even kick with
ridiculous.
the rocket. He has a drill on his leg.
Yeah, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they use like the build armor for something later on. I'm like, well, okay, that was a decent use. Also, like they're all like, oh no, it's hopeless. I'm like, just cut to wizard. I'm like, this is perfect for him to solve. It's just magic away the problem. I'm like, he could deal with it. Where the fuck were all the other writers during
Teleport,
this anyway?
please.
Yeah, right. Like not even that. Like he could just like there's a million other things Wizard could do to fucking deal with this. I mean, here's the thing. Like Super Hair Tyson Z happened because like some of the space like Sentai and like Metal Heroes thought that like the Magic Rider and Sentai teams were fucking up shit all over the galaxy, right? So I'm like, Wizard is just one of the few people who could deal with this. What about all the other writers who can fucking handle this? No problem, right? Um, right? Like, where the fuck is Build? Where is like Gaim? Where's Kiva? Like, where the fuck is Kiva? Where's Kabuto? Well, I guess we see what happens to Kabuto, but it's like so stupid. Like this is one of those annoying things where it's like, okay, this is the perfect plot. It's close to the end of the show. You should have gotten all the fucking returning writers to show up and beat the meteor threat.
That would have been difficult to do, though. Schedules and all.
I know, but I mean, like, you really didn't have to because it's a lot of CGI. Okay, that's bullshit, right? Because it's a lot of rider suits just jumping and doing
Oh
rider
yeah, they could
kicks.
totally use the rider suits.
So, which I'm fine with. I'm like, fuck it. I don't care. If you want to just resort to the suits coming back, I would have been fine with that. But it's like, oh, it's just the biggest meteor ever. Oh, look, there's one that's 100 times bigger than that. And not a single rider, not a single Sentai team. I was like, this is such bullshit.
There are
I mean,
multiple Sentai teams that could end that meteor with their mech.
hell, man, like, it's lucky this is not in the Ultraman universe because I'm like, this is literally what you do. Right? This is the thing you're set up to deal with.
This is a Tuesday for an Ultraman.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? This is like episode 5, right? Like it's nothing for them. I mean, like it's still a threat, but it's like yeah, it's like an early episode for an Ultraman show.
Where's red and blue?
Yeah,
Alright.
I know it's so stupid.
So
Um,
oh, down on Earth, the uncle is preparing provisions because he heard about the meteor last episode on the radio. Uh, and he asked Waz, like, hey, when is Sogo going to be back? And Waz is like, oh, he'll be back soon from space. And then he does the Kabuto finger thing.
I know. I'm like that was the best integration of the Kabuto thing. Like, fuck, that was actually really
Literally
clever.
pointing to space.
That's such a genius way of putting that in. And then I love how there's like this weird food theme going on, and Uncle's like, "Oh shit, I guess he's gonna be super hungry,
Right,
so I
like,
better
he,
make more."
he just, like, hears that Sogo's in space. He's like, oh, he's that far away? He's gonna be really hungry.
right? I mean, like he's a caricature at this point, but I'm like, fuck it, it's fine. We're clearly just doing the food thing because it's a Kabuto episode, so we're just throwing a ton of food
I
references
hope
here and there.
I hope at this point, since the uncle still doesn't know about any of the rider shit happening literally in the next room, I hope that like at the end of the series, Sogo tries explaining it to him and he like doesn't get it, but he just keeps smiling and nodding like pretending that he does.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Oh, you know how we were like, oh, I wonder who Waz is talking to. What if it's the uncle? By the end of the
Oh,
show,
when he's like doing the intros? Oh,
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. He's just doing all the recaps,
uh,
right? Because he's
and
just telling him like Soga's story.
and all of the in-scene stuff is like a decade style like time warp like showing him these things.
Yeah, pretty much, right? I mean, it could happen, but then again, that's like theory number four of what the fuck is going on. We're probably not gonna get a decent answer, but like, it's fine. At least, like, to be fair, at least he hasn't disappeared, like most side characters tend to do. So that's decent, at least.
So Gaze confronts Kickhopper, who, if you don't remember, is the current another Kabuto, and tries like talking reason to him, like, "Hey, you know that Punch Hopper? Yeah, he's a worm. I get it." Uh, and basically makes a statement that hits close to home for Gaze, which is, "Hey, if anyone's gonna defeat him, it'll be me."
Right? I mean, like this episode is really weird because it ties back into so much old school writer shit. Especially like Gates and Tsukiyomi both. Like, yeah, that's the old school. Like, oh, this could be from Ryuki, or it's like Kabuto and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we did have these plot lines which kind of disappear, and like all this shit.
Sorry, what? You
Okay,
cut out.
yeah, yeah. So, I was saying like, oh, I literally just called it Koyomi instead of Tsukiyomi. But like,
I didn't even notice. I was like throwing something away in my trash.
yeah, it's fair enough. Basically, what happened? Like all the stuff with like Tsukiyomi, it's like, oh, this is like a million other fucking references, like Hana and Koyomi and Yui and like, fuck, I don't remember Kabuto's sister's name. So you
Yeah.
know, right, right, like there's like a million freaking characters referenced with like all the shit that's going on with Koyomi, which I'm like, all right, it's the last of this era of writer. So like make all the fucking references you want, right? And like it's kind of interesting that they've managed to make a character that's basically fucking another take on a Ryuki plotline, but with like so many other references. Like she has like so many plot lines and references and things from like so many previous like main female characters. So it's kind of interesting. Um, But like yeah, again, like this Kabuto shit, this second parter threw in so many old callbacks. It's actually kind of impressive. I mean, it's super surface level, but it's kind of impressive that they managed to work them in anyway.
Um, but yeah, Gaze gets hit close to home with like the whole how like, oh yeah, if anyone's gonna defeat him, it'll be me, which is what he said about Sogo, Zi-O, Omazio, that kind of thing. Uh, and Kickhopper kind of reminisces to spoilers for the ending of Kabuto, but Punch Hopper was a human that got turned into a worm, and so Kickhopper fucking ends him on the spot.
Well, not on the spot, but like yeah, later on. And the thing
Like,
is, like Kick Hopper, I feel like Kick Hopper always knew. He just knew that like eventually he's gonna have to do it, and it's more like Punch Hopper figured out that he's a fucking worm,
no, okay,
and
hold
it
on.
was like
Do you
having
not
him.
remember? At
Yeah,
the
I remember what happened.
at the end of
But the thing is,
Kabuto, the worms are
yeah, yeah, I
handing
know.
out.
Handing out the necklaces, and then
Yeah,
like Punch Hopper gets it, and then he starts fucking breaking down because
and
he realizes he's a fucking worm.
and then he
And
runs over
Kick
to
Hopper
Kick
knew
Up.
all of.
Well, he runs over to Kick Upper, it reveals it to him. Kick Upper's like, okay, and kills him there.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he kills him there because he's like, oh, you can't handle it. Because Kick Hopper always knew.
I don't,
Like, he always had a.
I don't think he
No,
always knew if he didn't couldn't have known before then. Like Kick
no,
Upper
I feel
wasn't
like.
there to see him like be a worm.
Yeah, I feel like the difference is like Kick Hopper didn't kill him out of revenge. It's more like, oh, like Kick Hopper figured out that like Punch Hopper is not going to be able to handle the fact that he's a worm, so he's
That
going to have a breakdown, and he just gave him like a mercy killing.
that's
Um,
fine, but like Kick
yeah,
Upper couldn't have always known he was a worm before he found out he was a worm.
I felt like he had a suspicion because the thing is like you have to remember like Kick Hopper was the original Zabi, so like
Yes.
if anybody would know like the most about worms because he's like the captain of the squad that's designed to hunt down the worm.
Like
It'd be that guy.
maybe I'm
So like
misremembering it, but like the way I recall it is that Kick Hopper doesn't find out because you don't see Kick Hopper like in the time between when Punch Hopper becomes a worm. You don't see Kick Hopper at all until Punch Hopper confronts him about it like later that day or whatever.
yeah, I mean, it, to be fair, it's been a while. I always felt like Kick Hopper kind of had his suspicions that like he probably knew that like Punch Hopper was probably a worm or something, but he just didn't give a shit.
I just kind of felt like he was sticking to his convictions of like, hey, the worms are the enemy and they have to go, even
See,
if it's you.
it, that's interesting because see, that's more of like an alpha. Oh, you haven't seen Amazon's. Um, so I feel like that's kind of more of a read from like what like Alpha from Amazon's would do. Whereas what I felt like Kick Hopper was doing is like, hey, you're my little brother regardless. You're fucking
Like,
having a mental
like
breakdown.
thinking about it, yeah, I totally feel like it was a mercy kill. Like you shouldn't have to deal with
Yeah,
this, but
yeah,
my point is that he didn't. I don't feel like he found out until that scene, like then and there.
maybe. I feel like he always had his suspicions, but it's like their plotline is so vague anyway. You can read
It's
it
because
either
the
way.
writers didn't know what to do with them. It's
Yeah,
like, we're
I mean,
done with these characters,
like
but they still have a contract.
well, it's that plus the thing is it's a 20th anniversary show, so we have to put in like a reference to the original writer. That's why they're like Punch and Kick Hopper. They're the only fucking grasshopper monsters. And it's like, oh, like Kick Hopper is the older one, Punch Hopper is the second one. Because the thing is, like, Rider 1 is more technical and he kicks, whereas Rider 2 has more power and he usually punches more. So that the references to Rider 1 and 2. So like they had to put the suits in, they're really nice suits, but like again the characters had like basically like that's not true. They had plot. It's just like the show had so many fucking plot lines and they were running out of episodes, so they're like, fuck it, we don't even care. Like we could write a season around these two alone, but we don't have the time or the
They,
budget to give a
they
shit
couldn't
about.
even write a villain that their main character couldn't defeat that day. Like the final arc has like a new main antagonist like every other episode.
Yeah, yeah, it's fucking trash. Like, I think the like last couple episodes of Kabuto are really bad because like everything till the build up till like basically the second last arc because the last arc is like a couple episodes only, but like those episodes like they're interesting, but like it's the Fives problem of like you're basically doing season two Kabuto in 3 episodes. It's like there's no way you could do this well. Um, and then like the themes of their again like just like Fives, like it's a very interesting thematic thing that's going on where it's like, oh, stick to your guns. You know, even if society turns against you, do the right thing or what you think is right. You know, instead of making the easy choice, which is what the final arc of Kabuto is. but it's like it makes Kabuto seem like a douchebag, and it kind of just like undoes like most of his character development that he had until like those last couple episodes, which is really annoying because before that he became like a really like him and Gatak became like this really good team, and they were like all on the same side, and everything was working perfectly. Like they've been through so much shit, they were pretty much equals. Then that happens, and it's like, no, we're back to like Tendo and his stupid god complex shit. Well, it's not true. He doesn't have a god complex, but he just kind of
Mm,
always does his own thing regardless of what anybody else says. But yeah, you're right. The villains were fucking trash in that arc.
anyways, so back to Zi-O. Punch Hopper has kidnapped Kagami, uh, and in exchange wants the Forze watch and the Ginga Mirai watch. How did he? Because he doesn't want them to use those to stop the meteor. How did he know those were the watches they had just planned to use to stop the meteor?
Okay, what about the actual fucking? That's not true. He already took their powers, so their
I
shows didn't happen. Ah, fuck. Okay, you know what? That's a good point. That's why the other writers aren't there
like
because he already took their powers, so they don't have anything.
right. But like
Right, fair
I
point,
think
show. I can let your bullshit slide because of that.
I think this one aspect can also be solved with like, oh,
What is
he
that?
saw
Like the
like
decade thing's still weird because like, okay, so can you henshin into decade still, or do you just have your weird like timey wimey powers decade? Like, what the hell was going
Zero.
on
Can
with
you
that?
hear me? Yeah, no, you can't hear me. You have me muted. Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, sorry. Like, I guess I had my headphones muted.
Yeah, you like I looked. I was trying to say something, and then you cut in with like about decade, and I looked over, and you had the like no sound symbol on your thing.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I just noticed. Really sorry. Oh
Uh,
God.
but I was saying
Yeah.
how like he wanted their watches that could defeat the meteor, which they had just planned to use to destroy the meteor. And I guess you could make the conclusion that because he saw them use them in the fight last episode, he made the conclusion himself like, "Hey, those are space powers."
Kind of. I mean, to be fair, like a lot of this episode is super like just because the plot said so.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, I
just
mean, like if you want, you can like bullshit in a reason. It's like, oh right, it's just a power that they already used, so he wants that. But it's like, there's no guarantee that like they could have had like other fucking space shit, right? And it would have been fine. Like, there's no guarantee that like that's all they had, but it's fine. It's just they just wanted like tension for the script, so they wrote that way.
so uh
Yeah, it's weird. Honestly, I wish like you know how I was saying the theory of like, oh, I wish like the previous writers would have given Zio some shit like just weapons and tech instead of like their powers. I wish he had
right.
like fucking
He so like when he's in the build armor, he has builds like drill sword, but that's it.
yeah. Right. I was thinking like he should have gotten like Oz's like sword that can slice dimensions, or like fucking Gaim's stupid Helheim hopping bike shit. Um, like I don't know. There's a couple other writers stuff you could
Like
use.
here in this scene, we see him use some of the watches as like, oh, this Gaim watch turns into the watermelon thing, and this O's watch turns into one of the birds from the can birds things. It's like, okay, that's something, but
Right. It's just man,
huh,
honestly, I feel like they had this
like
episode. This
I
is one
guess
of those weird things because like the plot line is too specific.
like
Like the Koyomi again. The Tsukiyomi stuff is too specific for them not to have known they were gonna do this and it was gonna be in the Kabuto shit. So I feel like the whole like, oh, we're taking Ryder's powers away is like all build up to this shit where it's like, oh, there's no other Riders who can come and help you, right?
So
And so Koyomi again. Tsukiyomi has to
jeez.
like step up and like, fucking give them time, which kind of reveals her weird like Hana. Hold on. I mean like Yui esque backstory with the fucking like Schwartz basically being like Kanzaki Shiro or some shit. Um, I don't know what the hell was going on with that. Well, I mean, I kind of have an idea, but like, again, it feels like this episode is way too like plot relevant on the Tsukiyomi side that it's like they had to know this was coming, and they did the whole like, oh yeah, maybe like Schwartz and Tsukiyomi are like brother and sister, and that being that being revealed in the Kabuto episode, like it seems too specific. So like it seems like this bullshit built up to this episode where it's like yeah, it's supposed to be important because this giant meteor, but it just comes down to like okay, everything besides the like dramatic reveal for Tsukiyomi is like oh because the plot said so, you know? So that's kind of annoying. Like Japan is like a couple episodes behind, so he just did like maybe the first episode, like 36, like first episode of Kiva or the second episode, whatever. Um, and then he's like, "Oh, like it's super contrived and not that great and stuff." But he's like, if you enjoy it, that's fine. To be honest, like I feel like that was a lot more. I mean, it's not true. That was pretty plot
Uh,
convenient too, but like this Kabuto thing seems super like, well, why are you doing this shit? Oh, it's because the plot said so. You know? Like it's so like these guys aren't acting super logically. It's just pure plot convenience because we're getting late in the show and we have to dish out the information now. It kind of sucks because like the Tsukiyumi stuff's interesting, the like Kabuto stuff not that interesting, honestly.
uh, as I was trying to say earlier, I think Sogo's problem himself, Zio's problem, is that the writer, like, they want him to stand out as his own writer, but they also want him to be Decade, in that he is also all the previous writers, and they can't decide which one he is.
Honestly, like I fucking hated Decade when he came out because like Decade was a smug piece of shit. But like maybe not Tendo levels, but here's the thing, like Decade and Tendo, they have like a really distinct personality. Like Tendo is like hyper sure of himself, like almost to an insanely cocky level, whereas Tsukasa is kind of a jerk, but like he generally tries to do the right thing. Less
Uh, so, uh,
with the king complex. And it's like you're nothing, kid. Like you're not for the power and like importance your character should have. You don't have enough flavor to be memorable. You know?
uh, so, we get a clock up fight sequence between Gatak against another Kabuto and Punch Hopper, and of course he loses because he can't take on both of them by himself. Uh, Later on, back at the clock shop, he apologizes to the others for not being able to retrieve their watches they gave up. Sogo doesn't blame him, but Waz wonders what the time jackers are thinking, considering there's a meteor that's about to destroy the world. But also, he mentioned something about timelines merging or whatever because this attack is
Yeah.
from like the actual Kabuto timeline where a meteor destroyed Shibuya.
Right. So he's talking about like maybe the time jackers wanted to override this reality with the Kabuto one. I'm like, that's a really fucking bad idea because like, all right, you can't take out Sogo. You're gonna fucking beat Kabuto. right? Like Kabuto. Okay, modern rider wise, he's kind of okay. He's like pretty tough, but he's still like, yeah, modern final forms can rival Kabuto, right? But like Tendo is still like one of the most skilled fighters ever, rider
Like,
wise.
the dude doesn't make any mistakes. He's like the Superman of Rider.
Right, kind of. But whatever. The point is, yeah, he's basically like the closest thing to almost a perfect fighter. Like there's very few people who could like fight. Like it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I have this like huge bias because I'm like, oh, okay, like I really like Wizard and Haruto's a really good fighter, but I'm like, I don't know. Like Wizard has a lot of powers, but like even then I have to question like Kabuto's got like one power, it's super speed. And like technically Wizard has a counter, but I'm like at that point then they're just fighting on even footing and I'm like, okay, who
No,
wins?
that
Because
that
then it's like, all right, then it's just skill at that point because it's like yeah, like Wizard and Decade and all the other ones have more tricks. But like Tendo is still a really
yeah,
fucking good
Tendo just
fighter.
comes down to martial arts.
Right, that's the problem. It's like Tendo is so good at fighting that's like even with all your bullshit, like it's still like a 50-50 chance he could still win.
And then there's Hyper Clock Up, which can move so fast, he's basically freezing time.
Right, and in which case there's very few riders who can beat that. Like Wizard could counter it, Drive could counter it, but like I don't think Drive could outfight Kabuto. Like he's not as good of a fighter.
Probably not.
Maybe Decade. I don't know. It's complicated.
What about
O's
Ghost? Can you
maybe.
defeat a rider who's already dead?
Uh, well, the thing is, he has a belt.
Yeah, okay.
Because the thing is, like, the belt connects him. So, like, you could knock him out. Like, you
Yeah, you
could
can knock him out of
destroy
his
the belt.
engine.
Well, not really. It's more like you can, like, you can disconnect him from reality if you just take out his belt. So, like, yeah, you won't be able to beat him, but, like, he won't be able to do that much too. I mean, like, Ghost is one of those weird situations because he has weirdo powers. Because then you kind of run into it's like, well, can Gaim beat him? Can like because like Gaim has like weird, end of show powers and like so does Ghost, right? But then like Wizard is like Sorcerer Supreme, right? So it's like then you kind of get into like all these weirdo like hyper insane power ups, right? And like Forte could just literally just chuck him into space, but it's like will that stop Kabuto? I don't
No,
know.
space won't stop him. You saw
That's true.
Godspeed Love.
It's a good point. You can just rider kick his way back to it. Um, that's a good point. Um,
Forze,
yeah, so
as good as he
I,
is still one of the weaker riders.
right, like I think like 1-to-1, it ends up being like okay, it depends on how much bullshit, how much Deus Ex Machina Gaim and Coast's final power ups give them. Like full like I've absorbed all guard level energy. Like how much Deus Ex Machina they can pull because like okay if they're like super like they can do anything of course they're gonna win. But if they're just like final rider form then I'm like I don't know man. I feel like it's gonna be up to O's and Wizard and Decade. Because like O's has like an anti time power up and like Wizard just has fucking everything. And like Decade, Decade's thing of like always has a card up his sleeve. So like those guys and again, even with overpowered nonsense, it's still a 50-50 chance. Right? Like so that's the problem with Tendo is like Kabuto is fucking busted because he's so skilled. Like Like, here's the thing: if you took your belts off and were like, okay, go fight,
Kuga, no, Hibiki would win.
maybe. But the thing is, like,
Hibiki is
Tendo.
constantly training himself as a regular human.
Yeah, I know, but Tendo fucking trains all the time too. He's been training since he was a little kid.
I still would put my money on Hibiki.
Um,
That
maybe
dude is
Drive,
jacked.
Shinosuke. Yeah, I don't know. I'd still say Tendo would have a pretty decent chance. So again,
Forze
yeah,
would
fair
lose
enough.
though because he is literally a high school. No, no. Deno would
No,
lose.
he's a teacher
Ryotaro
now.
cannot fight at all.
Fair enough.
Ryotaro would lose to even Forze.
Wow. That's that's ridiculous. Weirdly enough, uh, oh my god, freaking Ghost won't lose because he's actually trains, sort of. So he's actually a somewhat decent swordsman. Um, yeah, this is one of those weird things.
Gaim knows how to dance.
Guy knows how to do right, but he's like guard mode now. He's not even a normal human anymore.
No, but if you take that away and you throw all the riders
Yeah,
at each
then
other
he's
as normal
fucked. He's
humans,
fucking dead. Right. So it's like Kuga. Like Kuga's good, but like he won't do anything. Agito, same problem. Faiz, he's not gonna fight. Takumi is not the type. Unless he can get in a cheap shot, in which case he will super take that cheap shot. Um, right. Like. Um, fucking Ryuki. Shinji would fight, but he would get his ass kicked. But he would definitely throw down.
he's
Um,
actually gone into many fights.
many fights. Um, right, and then then you cut to like Kenzaki is like, well, he's fucking undead, and two,
No, but you
he
take
was
away
trained.
Undead and he's just a normal human.
I know, but he was trained to be a writer,
Right.
so
So he
he
knows how to
basically,
fight.
yeah, I'll put him at least on the level of like drive for being a cop. Like I'll put him on that level. G3, same thing. You know, there he's a cop. Same thing with like Double and Axel. Like I could see them as like regular fighter dudes or like cop level. So like they're better than normal people, but like yeah, again like Hibiki definitely one of the strongest. But the thing is like Hibiki is more like endurance, whereas like Kabuto is just preciseness. Because even like here's the thing, like even in regular life, whenever you try to do anything to Kabuto, he's just so smooth. Like Tendo is so smooth in
He's
movement,
just
you
such
can't
a
fucking
big
hit him.
Mary Sue.
Yeah, pretty much right. Like you literally can't hit. Well, I mean, to be fair, in the show it says like he trained for years to be basically perfect, right?
Yeah,
To inherit the title.
he is a Mary Sue
So
in
like
most
in the
aspects, but
show,
his
you
flaw
see
is
him
that
training.
his flaw
Like
is that he's an asshole and people hate him.
yeah, pretty much right. And the thing is like in the show you see him training. Like it shows that like he trains like every day. Like he does it in his fucking garage where he parks his freaking bike, right? Because most of the other riders like Zek had to build their bikes, whereas like Kabuto had his own fucking bike because he built
Um,
it. Um, right, so he actually trains too. And then like Hiva, it's like no, Watru's got no chance. Plus, he's not gonna fight. I mean, like he could fight, but like he's
he's
not
not.
going to
He's
fight.
not. He no.
Uh, Decade, on the other hand, like he's not really a fighter. He's kind of a
No.
douchebag who likes to order people around.
Uh,
Um,
Edgy doesn't really know how to fight.
Yeah, but then like Bill, and then it cuts to like Birth, where like both of the actually all fucking three of the Birth riders can fight, right? Right, because like Date can fight. The guy who was like the security guard who becomes the second, not security guard. He used to be a cop.
The chief.
And then he went.
That guy.
Yeah, yeah, like the chief of
Yeah.
the
Like,
O's Foundation or whatever, or I mean the yeah, whatever. Like the organization in Oath,
He was
and
important.
then yeah,
Um,
I mean, like he was a cop. He was a pretty good cop, so he could fight. And you see him training. But can he beat Kabuto? Not a fucking chance.
and then Exit and Build can't do anything as just humans.
Yeah, they can't fight shit. I mean,
Like,
like
how many times has Sento pushed Banjo in front of him as a meat shield?
yeah, I know, right? So many times, but Greece could fight though.
Oh yeah,
Like
Greece
Greece
could.
and Banjo could.
Greece.
They couldn't win,
Yeah, I
but
don't
they could
think Greece
fight.
could beat Tendo, but I would love to see him like just tackle him.
Yeah, you just see Baggio and Greece just like fucking tackle. Okay, to be fair, they wouldn't be able to tackle Tendo because Tendo would just move out of the way and these idiots would just
And
take
then they
each other
crash
out.
into each other, and you just see them lying on top of each other.
It's like, it's just perfect how stupid they are. It's great. Um, Xaid
He
is
doesn't know how
interesting.
to fight. He knows how to play video
Emu,
games.
I say Emu could like fight, but he wouldn't win. Like Taiga is questionable. Like I feel like Taiga and Date are just like civilians who know how to fight, right? So like they could probably be decent in a fight, but not against Tendo. So yeah, you're right. Hibiki's like literally. Oh well, wizard. Like Haruto can actually fight,
I don't
kind
think
of.
he's on Tendo's level.
He's not on Tendo's level though. Yeah, out of suit. In suit, definitely. Out of suit, no.
Uh,
So yeah, you're right. Hibiki's like the only option.
so back to the episode. We should actually like
Well,
get through
drive
this.
maybe too, but I don't feel actually no because like Tendo gets arrested by cops and he just like fucking gets out of it like no problem. So like yeah, Hibiki's the only option. Out of suit.
Uh, so getting to the point, like the real meat of this episode. Earth freezes time and takes back the ride watches because he doesn't want the Earth to be destroyed by a meteor. That would kind of go against their old plans. And he proposes to Schwartz, like, hey, we should probably return these. Schwartz takes them. Cut to Decade in Tsukuyomi in 2058, 10 years before when Tsukuyomi and Gaze decide to travel back in time to defeat young Zi-O. Uh, Decade, in his ways, has taken on the appearance of a chef. Uh, they head up the stairs where they meet a child, Tsukuyomi, who yells at them for being time travelers. And then a younger Schwartz shows up and says, uh, hey, whatever, I don't know. And takes the young Tsukuyomi away. And then the regular Schwartz shows up and is like, oh, okay, you can know about this now, whatever. Here, take these watches.
Yeah, I love Schwartz. Like he doesn't give a fuck. Like okay, that's his like constant character like characterization. Like he literally doesn't care, but no, he literally does not give a shit
Like,
what like anybody knows or cares about. He's like, you're gonna do what I want. I don't care. Like here, take these watches and do what I want.
Decade's like, oh, did I show her something you didn't want her to see? And Shorty's just like, I don't care what you think. Floors Decade and then gives Tsukiyomi the watches.
I know, right? That's fucking great. Like Decade's totally doing like, oh look at that, you mad, bro? And Schwartz is like, fuck off.
I'm always mad.
No, he's actually indifferent, which is really ridiculous because like this is one of those problems in this show. It's like, as you said, like Schwartz from the beginning of the show to now. It's like, what is his plan? Have we gone closer or further away? Like we have no idea, right? Like yeah, he's strong and he doesn't care what anybody wants, but it's like, well, what the fuck does he want? Like, we have no idea. I mean, I guess he wants to take out Amazio, but it's like, is he getting closer to that? Like, what the hell is going on with him?
Yeah, I don't know what his plan is. Uh, so Decade drops off Tsukuyomi, who hurries to return the watches. Sogo runs into Kagami, who's just kind of reflecting on everything that's going on right now, and Sogo kind of like It's like, nah, you're a true warrior. You can do it. When I become king, I'm gonna rely on you to protect people. And then Kagami just goes, King? Even that guy never said something so absurd.
I love how they're still using like the "oh that guy" because that's how he talks about Kabuto all the time, even in the show and stuff, which is freaking great. But I
Oh,
love
oh,
how all the other writers react like, "Oh my god, this kid and this king
it's like
shit is so ridiculous."
Agito's like, he wants to be king?
Right? And like fucking like Blade just takes off even before we get to the
Because
king
it's like,
shit. Why
yeah,
did he?
go be a demon king or whatever.
Right, right. It's ridiculous.
Uh,
Um,
what's
to be
ridiculous
fair,
is what.
the no. The weird thing is like, oh, I'm gonna charge you for to protect people. I'm like, that's cool. Um, shouldn't you give that to the actual cop writer?
He
You
hasn't
know, like
met
we have a
him.
couple of those.
He doesn't
Oh,
know that
fuck that.
exists.
Okay, G3 Axle Drive. Right, there's literally a Sentai squad of fucking Kamen Riders who are cops now. Um, right, so it's like it doesn't make any sense. Whatever. Fair enough. It's next episode, I
D-
guess.
he has tunnel vision, okay? Um, but yeah, what's absurd is what Kagami says. Like, oh, even that guy never said anything so outrageous. He never said anything that was as outrageous as wanting to be king. Really, Tendo never
Yeah,
said anything that level of outrageous.
not. Well, he never said he wanted to be king because like Kabuto doesn't give a shit. Right? He
No,
doesn't care about authority. He
but
just wants
yeah,
people to
that
be like, get out of my fucking
well,
way.
that's it. He's like literally preaching about how he walks the path of heaven.
Right, but like again, the whole path of heaven shit is because like that's just kind of what his like grandma drilled into him. But the path of heaven, um, okay, spoilers. Vashi, stop now, I guess. So like path of heaven just means like follow your own path, right? Which is like what? That's such a lame ass thing, right? It's a lame ass thing in the West, but you have to remember this is a Japanese show. And Japan is like hyper conformity, the society, you know. So when you have a writer whose premise is like have the strength to walk your own path in life, that's kind of a decent message. But yeah, again, in the West, it's kind of more like fuck off, Kabuto, you're kind of an annoying dick. But in the show, like it just kind of points out like yeah, you don't have to like that's the whole thing in Kabuto is like Zect and the worms and like all this other secret shit of just fall in line, do the right thing, or greater good crap, and then Kabuto shows up and is like fuck that shit, do the right thing, have the strength to walk your own path, even if the world turns against you. So like it's a really good message. The way they fucking do it in the show is highly questionable.
Okay, Vash, you can
Especially,
cut in here.
especially in the last arc. Yeah,
All right,
especially in the last arc.
all right. Uh, all right. So, cut to an ensuing fight between everyone. Uh, Sugo shows up late, but whatever. Everyone is fighting. Um, Sogo shows up to return the watches. We get one of the coolest henshin sequences in the
Yeah,
show.
that's what I was. That's what I was thinking.
Like,
I'm like, this
eh,
is one of the coolest
like,
fucking henshins.
like when you've got a bunch of good guy riders for fighting bad guy riders, and it just does a circle spin around them as each one does their like henshin sequence, and it does a second loop for the actual like henshin itself. Like, oh man.
Yeah, that was fucking badass. Especially because like normally we just get like static shot, or like cuts. It's because like matching, like tracking the footage and matching the CGI when it's moving is a lot more of a pain in the ass. But like I guess tech, like After Effects and stuff, has gotten so good at that shit in recent years that it's like they can even pull off insane shots like this.
Remember that time
And
Build
I'm
Haitian
actually
on his
pretty.
bike?
When was that?
It was like one of the earliest episodes. He did it once, and it was like episode 2 or 3 or some shit like that.
Right. And I'm thinking of like, oh, you mean like almost like a third of the fucking henshins in Blade,
Well, yeah, because I'm pointing it out because we don't
or
get those
Agito?
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be fair, like the bike henshins are a lot easier because what they do is like, oh, rider on bike, insert blurry shit that covers the bike, and then insert another shot of, rider already henshin on bike moving on. So it's pretty simple to do. Whereas this insanity with like they're just swinging around like on a crane, maybe a crane or like a circle track or something, where it's just cutting between like at least like six different guys with six different effects going off, where it's like their effects are bouncing forward towards the camera and shit. That was fucking insane, but it looked cool as all hell. Yeah, which is weird because like last episode had really good shots. This episode has really good shots. The plot's not great, but the cinematography for some certain shots is top notch.
Also, Kick Hopper was a real good choice for another Kabuto, for multiple reasons. One of which that is that like he still has his base rider form, so he's just constantly switching between one rider and another in fights.
Right? That was fucking awesome. Like last time it was like another Kabuto to Kick Hopper. This time it's Kick Hopper to another Kabuto, which is fucking clever as hell. Um, and such a good use of that gimmick. It's like, yeah, again, why haven't they given the damn watches to a different evil rider or something? It would make perfect sense. This was actually a really good use of that. It's also cool seeing like some of the shots are weird where it's like, oh, like Kick Hopper and Gattack fight, and they have like weird fire just coming out. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I don't remember this in Kabuto. But then you have like other shots where it's like Gates and like Punch Hopper fight, and it's like you get like the zoom in and like their effects, and then like blast off. So like it's really cool seeing like the different effects clashing against each other. I mean, to be fair, like Kabuto had a lot of that, so it's nice to see it come back. But yeah, it's nice because like back in the day, I mean, like a couple of years ago, when the CGI, like especially Superhero Tyson and stuff, like when the CGI and stuff wasn't like anywhere near this perfected, it would usually be like, oh, here's my flashy effect, and here's my flashy effect. We're just gonna hit and clash, and that'll be it. But it's like no. Now we can have like different styles of effects, like going against each other and stuff, and it's like whoever the fuck shot this like did a really good job, and like the special effects team did a really good job.
Uh, Soga and Waz take this space to deal with the meteor. On the ground, you've got the remaining riders fighting it out. Uh, Kagami gets knocked out of his attacked form, but like gets back on his feet. He makes a declaration of how he's not going to give up hope or something like that. And then the Kabuto Zector flies in uh, and allows him to use it.
I mean, as cool as that was, like as soon as they cut back to, oh right, he tried to get the Kabuto Vector and then pretty much fucking like flattened him, at one point. But I don't know, man. Like honestly, I know why they gave him the Kabuto thing because like,
Right.
oh, we're
Bring it
never
full
gonna get real
circle.
Kab. Yeah, kinda, but it's mostly like we're never gonna get real Kabuto back. Like we're never gonna get Tendo back, so it's like, well, just give it to the other guy. I mean, it makes sense in the story, but like At this point, I felt like Attack doesn't need Kabuto because like he's proven that he's just as capable, right? So him getting it, it's like that's cool, but it's like it's unnecessary because he says like, "Oh, I'm a warrior." I'm like, "Yeah, you're the fucking god of destruction, Attack, right?" So I'm like, why do you even need like the one who walks the path of heaven, Kabuto? Like you don't need this that Sector. Um, it's weird. Oh no, it's like Sun God Kabuto, God of Destruction, Attack, right? Or something like that.
Uh,
But the point is, like, yeah, I like that was cool, but I'm like, I wish he'd be like, fuck Kabuto, I don't need that damn Sector, I don't need his help, and he just stepped up and like did his own thing. But like, yeah, it makes sense thematically. Also, I love his rider kick. Like, he doesn't do like Tendo's
right.
like reverse spin one, but he doesn't do his like attack jumping like front kick either. It's this weird side swipe thing.
It's also
It's the mix of
really
both of
well
them. It's
shot.
just
As like
yeah,
Gaze
that
is
was
getting ready to
fucking awesome.
finish off Punch Hopper, and then Kick Hopper comes in to like rescue him, and Kagami cuts him off with the rider kick. Like
Yeah,
I like the Insu fighting because this this Kabuto we're seeing is not Tendo. These are not Tendo's movements, so you can tell that there's someone else who is wearing the Kabuto suit here. Despite that, I wish that after that rider kick he had done the finger thing.
just take it up. Um,
It's like I'm supposed to do this,
honest,
right?
I don't know. Yeah. That would have been funny, but to be fair, I'm glad they didn't because that's clearly a Tendo thing. Because
Right.
it's like
And
Tendo's like
they
Path of
gave it to
Heaven shit. It's
Waz
just
at the
like
beginning of the episode.
right, yeah, exactly. They already homaged it. There's no need to do it again. Because the thing is, like, again, like I said, like Attack doesn't need to prove himself to be Kabuto. We already saw him be as capable as Kabuto in the show until the final couple episodes, in which case a lot of backtracking for characters. But it's nice that he has it. It makes sense that he could get it. I personally didn't really need him to get it, but it's like, well, I guess this solves Toei's problem of like, if we ever need Kabuto again, we don't have to fucking get Tendo's actor.
So in space, Zi-O and Waz are dealing with the meteor, but they're not going to do it in time. And then Koyomi. Now you got me doing it. Tsukuyomi uh, uses her time powers to halt the meteor long enough for them to actually like deal with it. And so now her powers are getting stronger and awakening, and Schwartz is happy to see this for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Schwartz is
Like,
planning at this point.
like the implication here is that Schwartz is trying to confirm that Tsukuyomi is his missing sister, but I don't know how he hasn't confirmed it by now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking maybe he just wants her to be fully powered up for his plan, but I'm like why? You're already strong enough. Why do you need a second? Hell, you have two other time jackers, right? Shit, you have a time machine. If you're trying to just power up Tsukiyomi to the level she was when she was a kid, it's like you have a time machine. Just go get her from that timeline. Fucking, you were just there. Whatever. Like Schwartz's plan makes no sense.
So Kid Hopper asks Punch Hopper to call him Aniki one more time, but the worm inside Punch Hopper throws away the identity before burning away. Kid Hopper then asks for someone to laugh at him, which no one does, and he heads off on his own again in his solitude and pain. What a great choice for another Kabuto.
Right? I mean, like Kabuto's first rival. Fuck, man, Kick Hopper is so interesting. He's got like he's got one of the best storylines in Kabuto. Probably the most underused character in the whole show.
Yeah, easily. Uh, and then Kagami gives Sogo the Kabuto watch and wishes him luck on being king, uh, bringing the count down to two more watches: the Den-O
Okay,
watch and the Drive watch.
okay, so there's a problem here. It's like what the fuck is going on? Does he still have the attack power up?
Uh,
Maybe.
can
And if
Kagami
he
still be
does,
attack
yeah, maybe.
as long as the Zector acknowledges him? Uh,
Yeah, and then the other problem is like 1999, right? Like, why are you still here?
because the
What?
timelines are merging.
Yeah, that's not a fucking good. Okay, that's bullshit because Decade already did that. We can't go, oh, we're re-merging the timelines. Like, no, we already did this. It it doesn't make any sense.
It was a offhanded comment that they seem to be ignoring.
Yeah, but it's still this is the attack from the Kabuto timeline, which means like should we? Fucking doesn't make any sense. Like if they were
If
like,
you
all right,
try
here
to
you
make
go,
sense
here's
of
my
this,
power.
you're just gonna give yourself a headache.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. They just stopped giving a
Yeah.
shit.
I don't think they ever did.
Yeah, honestly, like that's a good point.
When
Uh,
specifically referring to the time travel stuff.
right? Like I think the only, yeah, that's a good point. They probably the only reason they mention the fucking like Shibuya 1999 shit is just as a reference to Kabuto. Like if they left it out, it would have been fine. It's like, all right, this is a new timeline. It's he's just here because Decade merged the world,
It's like,
so that Shibuya
yeah,
1999 shit didn't happen, but the worm still showed up for some reason. So like some of Kabuto still happened. I would have been fine with that, but then they
yeah,
mentioned it. It's like, what the like if they were like, okay, here you go, here's the Kabuto watch or whatever, and it's like it's just gone. Like, oh, none of Kabuto happened. I'm like, fine. But with this ending, it's like Kabuto kind of still happened because like Attack and Kickhopper is still running around. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense in the timeline.
yeah. But have you
I mean, you
considered
can,
how Ryuki doesn't make any sense in this timeline either?
yeah, I know, but the thing is, like, Kiddo gave up his watch, so like he would lose his memory, so it wouldn't matter. Um, and like Kenzaki sure is a fucking weirdo who can manipulate like dimensional shit. So I can kind of see that fudging some stuff, but I don't know. Yeah, you're right. They don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, like you could argue maybe he took Decade's power, therefore like Decade's show didn't happen, therefore like the worlds didn't fully merge, but then like it doesn't make any sense with any of the other shit. Whatever. Yeah, you're
all right,
right. It's
all right.
stupid.
Uh, and to end it, everyone heads into the kitchen to get something to eat, and they find that Uncle had made far too much onigiri, and he encourages them all to eat like 13 each.
Holy shit. You're stocked for like a couple of weeks at
16,
that point.
sorry, it's even more absurd.
Fucking hell.
Because he was preparing for the evacuation for the meteor hit, and hey, guess what? It didn't happen, but you can't waste the food, so everyone has to eat at least 16 of these.
Holy shit, that's insane. This is this is so crazy. Yeah, so the thing is like my the video I was watching kind of cut out and I was already running late so I didn't see the end of this.
Oh,
So that's
you,
insane.
so you missed the
Um
stinger.
yeah, I missed this. Like
Uh,
all I remember whenever I see Onigiri is like, oh, I just think of like Joe Onigiri, who's the guy who played Kuga, and then I remember like them running this like really fucking ridiculous fake news thing. in Kuga, where they're like, oh, owner of like basically like this onigiri shop, killed his girlfriend and ran off and shit, and it's all just a pun on like the actor who's playing Kuga. And it's like, oh man, they know how stupid this nonsense is, and they're just running with it. There's like this one like bit where he's just sitting by the radio and this the random news that's playing on the radio. I'm like, they were fucking fully aware and they were running with this joke back in the day, which is great. But anyway, Stinger, I have no idea what's the
Um,
Stinger.
so while they're all like lamenting how much onigiri they're about to have to fucking eat, they hear the familiar whistle of Den Liner outside.
Right? What? We're fucking doing Dano
We're fucking doing
first? No,
Deno next. Like, all this time I was saying, oh, it's gonna be Drive then Deno. Deno's gonna be last. It's gotta be last. Nope.
that's that's crazy. Which means Drive's gonna be last because Drive's gonna show up to arrest his ass.
Guess what?
What?
Sogo gets his final form next week.
Oh my god. What?
So,
He's
yeah,
not even. He's
he.
missing one.
Exactly. So either they're gonna splice them together, or he's gonna cheat and use the one Gaze brought from the future.
Oh, that's bullshit. I mean, yeah, they're probably gonna splice it at this point, which I'm like, all right, fine. Drive kind of has time travel bullshit, sort
Here,
of. Well, it's got more future
uh,
timeline stuff, and
here's
those future assholes do come back in time in a movie and stuff. So I'm like, all right, it's fine.
here's what I would accept, because let's say they wanted to just get the final form out sooner, right? They he cheats and uses the one Gaze brought, but then they still do the Drive tribute where he actually gets the watch.
See, that's kind of a waste because I'm like, I'd rather do like the 2 for 1 and have like both, like people from both of the shows show up, than be like, all right, we just rushed out the final form. But I'm like, what is the point? Like, unless it's like, oh, you get your final form and like the final villain shows up and then Drive shows up to help. Like, unless that happens, like, there's no reason for Drive to be after this because everything after this is just straight up just gonna be like Zi-O plot, right? Like, unless like
Right.
Drive is doing the same thing that Decade is investigating Zi-O, which he should have no reason to do. Like, why would he show up now? It doesn't make like they should
Yeah,
have.
there's no reason to shoehorn Drive in that way. He should just get a regular episode like the others have been getting. Uh, it's worth noting that in the next episode preview, we see Zero Nos.
Oh man,
Sakurai Yuto returns. Hey, oh hey, Hibiki.
hey
Who?
Hibiki, yeah, I want to see that. Fuck, just acknowledge it. Oh man, it's gonna be good.
Just do it. Just do it. We also
Hopefully, it's not the fucking kids.
we're also gonna get some gags of the Imagine possessing some of the characters, like
Oh
Ryutaro's
wait, wait,
possess.
wait, wait. Deadline is coming back, right?
Yeah.
Right. They already did the Agito episode.
Yes, they already did the Agito
So
episode.
Mana, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
Mana,
she's not in the preview, but maybe.
but she could be on the damn train.
uh, uh, yeah, we're also gonna get some gags of like the Imagine possessing different cast members. Like Ryutaro's possesses the uncle. Like I'm gonna send you the image now.
Okay, this should be fun. Holy shit! Holy shit! Oh, that looks awesome. Fuck, this is gonna be fun. Oh man, that's so good. That damn turtle. Oh no, purple, right?
Yeah, no, the drag. Yeah, the dragon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's gonna be even more fun,
Um,
man.
I think
Fuck, this is gonna be
Momotaros
good.
possesses Gaze at one point.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Urtaros might do Tsukuyomi. Or was.
Unlikely. Or Waz, yeah. I'm thinking Waz would make more sense because Waz can just do his fucking I don't know. I guess he can be the Tom Cavanaugh of the show instead of Flash, where he just plays a different Wells every season. It's just Waz gets to play a totally
Oh
different
god,
version of
what if
himself.
Waz is doing like the intro recap thing he does, and Orotaros possesses him in the middle of that and takes over?
Oh shit, that'd be really fun.
Uh,
Um, well, I mean, technically they're more Imagine. Like, there's the gold one and the white one, too. But
Kintaros and Siege.
yeah, unlikely that Siege is gonna show up because he tends to not show up in most things. Um, huh.
Uh,
Man, it's gonna be interesting though. Honestly, it would have been more fun if he took over the uncle, but it's like, we'll see. It's probably because they could only that's not true. Like the Imagine VAs show up whenever the fuck they need them, so they're probably
Momotaros more
all
than the
there.
others.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, they'll probably be there if they need them all. It'll be fun. Still, it's weird that fucking drives later. Like, unless they do like the drive future shit, like it's not gonna make any sense.
Yeah,
Like, what could you like unless you literally show up to arrest Sogo,
it's like what's
you've got
really
nothing.
what's really absurd is that the entire ever since Blade happened, they've been doing a countdown for us. They've been specifically pointing them out, and Drive has been amongst them. So they're clearly acknowledging that he hasn't earned the Drive Watch yet.
Uh, I mean, they're like the only other reason is they're setting up for some kind of plot twist. But I'm like, okay, yeah, Drive has plot twist, but it's like none of these characters are anything like the Drive characters. So I mean, maybe you're gonna do a Tsukiyomi like plot twist shit, but you did it this episode, so it's like, what what could you possibly? All right, like maybe it's gonna be something about Sogo's past. Maybe, but I'm like, we know like pretty much all of it. Right? Like, what the hell is there to know? Maybe it's gonna be Schwartz, and it's like, oh, this is why he's evil. I'm like, all right, that is like one of the few things. Unless it's like, um, her and Aura turning good, and we're leaving that for the Drive episode. I'm like, all right, fine, because like all the villains in Drive, all the like major villains, reoccurring ones, turn to help the good guys by the end. Like, if you're saving it for that, okay, I can kind of get it. But if you're not, then like I got nothing else. Like, there's no reason you should be last.
Uh, but yeah, that's this episode of Kamen Rider Zi-O. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for more Rio Soldier, and Wednesday for this episode of Kamen Rider Zi-O. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. And as for like the Rider movies and stuff, like the Build one and Generations, the new one, we'll try to figure something out. People seem to have a little more free time, but we just haven't got a schedule going. We'll try to figure something out for that. But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.